Hey guys, what is up? Welcome to my channel. If you're new here, welcome back. If you're not, I'm so glad you're here. So let's jump into today's video. Today I am going to be showing you all of the books that I read in 2023. My goal this year, if you go all the way back to my New Year's resolutions video from last year, was to read 24 books in the year, so 2 books a month. I did not quite reach that goal. I only read 22 books this year. However, I'd say at least 10 of them probably were over 500 pages, well over 500 pages. So I'm still very happy with that. My collection isn't huge, but I have read most of these things, and I also got the Kindle app this year, so some of these books I have read there. The first book I read this year was The Summer of Broken Rules by K.L. Walther. This is 354 pages. This is definitely a YA book. It is a romance book. It is about a girl named Meredith who had lost her sister Claire in a car accident a few months prior to this book taking place. Her and her family and Claire always used to go to their grandpa's property. There's like multiple houses on this property, and it's kind of like a vacation property. So Meredith wasn't exactly looking forward to it this summer, obviously, because Claire wasn't with her. But they were going back for one of her cousin's wedding, and she meets one of the groomsmen. I think that there's very minimal spice in this. I don't really remember anything. It's definitely like a YA high school romance kind of situation. It's a cute book though, and it references like Taylor Swift and Taylor Swift songs a ton, so obviously I loved that aspect of it. I would probably give this book like a 4 out of 5 stars, just because it was like good, but it didn't really like stand out to me in any certain way. The second, well, I guess really numbers 2 through 6 books that I read this year were the ACOTAR series, A Court of Thorns and Roses. I know that this book has so much hype. If you guys are on Book Talk, this book has so much hype. So I read it and I loved it. There are the 5 books behind me. I just don't want to get all of them out right now. So the first one is ACOTAR, and then the rest of them. Rating them all individually, I think I would give A Court of Thorns and Roses a 4 or 4.5. I would give the second one a 5, the third one a 5, the fourth one a 4, and the 5th one a 3. The 5th one was honestly really hard for me to get through. It took me like a month to read, and I never take that long to read anything. However, my life was a little bit crazy at that time too, so that could also play into it. The main character in this book is named Feyre. Basically, things happen. She gets taken from her family and gets to live in this fairy world, which sounds like, it really sounds like la la la, but it's really not la la la, okay? Her family never treated her well, so she finds out that these creatures that she grew up hating and thinking they were terrible really aren't that terrible. But this is definitely the first fantasy series that I've ever really read, and I loved it. I want to read more fantasy now. This series will always hold a special place in my heart for me. You just get attached to the characters in these books so much. Like, it feels like you're living it with them almost, and I love that. The writing was amazing. The character development is amazing. I love these books. The next book that I read this year, I do have the hard copy of it, but I don't like physically have it right now. I let Oren's sister borrow it. So the 7th book that I read this year was Icebreaker by Hannah Grace. I liked the book. I would give it like a 4 stars probably. It just had way more spice than I was expecting the book to have. I went into it thinking it was going to be like a slow burn type of romance. It's not. It's not slow burn. It is definitely like enemies to lovers, I would say, but it's not slow burn. So I just kind of took me by surprise, and I was just like, what is this? But it's a really good book. It's a pretty easy read. There's nothing like too heavy. So it was a good book, but definitely wasn't in my favorites of the year. The 8th book that I read this year is The Spanish Love Deception by Elena Armas. This book was really good. I loved this book. I would say like maybe 2. If I was ranking it like 1 to 5, it'd be like a 2, 2.5 for spice. This one isn't enemies to lovers. It is a slow burn. If there's one thing about me, I love a good slow burn romance. So this one was really good. This is about a girl named Catalina. She works in some sort of like firm in New York City, and the male main character is named Aaron Blackford. Obviously, it's an enemies to lovers, so we know that at the beginning of the book they do not like each other. But basically, Catalina lied to her family and said that she had a boyfriend, and she didn't, and she needed to go to her cousin's wedding in Spain and had to bring a fake boyfriend with her. So it also has a fake dating trope, which personally I also love. So this guy that she despises says, hey, I'll be your fake boyfriend. And then I'm sure we can all guess what happens after that. But this is a really good book. This was actually Elena Armas's first novel. I believe that she has 3 out right now. The 9th book that I read this year was One True Loves by Taylor Jenkins Reid. You guys, this is definitely in my top books for the year. I could not put this book down. It's definitely one of the shortest books that I read this year. So I know that this is gonna sound like a lot, but I promise you it's all on the back of the book. The female main character in this book is named Emma Blair. She met this guy in high school named Jesse. They were perfect together. Her family ran a bookstore, but that was never her dream. So her and Jesse moved all the way across the country to California from Massachusetts. So they got married. Eventually they were together for like, I think maybe 10 years. And right before one of their wedding anniversaries, Jesse decided that he wanted to go on this trip. He was a wildlife photographer, so he wanted to go on this like once in a lifetime trip to Alaska. Helicopter crashed, never heard from Jesse again, right? So Jesse, she presumes, everyone thinks that Jesse's dead. Bro, this is crazy. Like, I promise I'm not spoiling the book right now for you, but I know that it sounds like I am, but I'm really not. So obviously this book focuses a lot on grief and loss. Really, she had to go through something that no one wants to go through by losing her husband, but she does begin to fall in love again with somebody from her past. And the story starts 3 years later after Jesse's passing. And let me just read you the first sentence of this book because I was hooked immediately. The first sentence of this book says, I am finishing up dinner with my family and my fiance when my husband calls. Huh? What? So the book is about her losing Jesse. It's about the grief that she went through. It's about finding herself again after this horrible thing happened to her. It's about who she was back then and who she is now. She's in love with 2 different guys, which is why it's called One True Loves, and she has to choose. She has to decide who she is, who she wants to be, who she wants to be with. This book was just way different from most of the ones that I read this year. Really stood out to me. One of my favorites, honestly, that I read this year, and I'm gonna give it a 5 stars. I thought it was amazing. I think that you guys should go read it. So as I was finishing up that book, I saw that this book came out. It is called The American Roommate Experience, and it is also by Elena Armas. Now, I'm a little bit stupid, okay? Because this is her second novel. It is about a girl named Rosie. And then I started reading this and I was like, that's so weird. I'm pretty sure I just read a book that one of the characters was named Rosie. And then Rosie was talking to her BFF Catalina and I was like, wait, huh? Turns out this book is about Rosie, who is Catalina's best friend in the Spanish love deception. And the male main character, Lucas, is Catalina's cousin. So I loved the fact that we got to see kind of like more of the 2 characters that I'd read about previously. I love when books cross over like that. It's not really a series, they are standalone novels, but I think that you should read them in order. So Rosie used to work at the same firm as Catalina, but she wanted to be an author, so she wrote her first book. It did extremely well, so she quit her job, and then she was really struggling to write her next book. Things happen and Lucas and Rosie have to share an apartment. Lucas is going to go back to Spain though in a couple of weeks. He knows that Rosie's struggling writing this book, so he's like, hey, I have an idea. I'll take you on a series of fake dates and maybe you'll get inspiration from that. And then obviously I'm sure we all know what happens on these fake dates. I think that I would give this one a 4.5 stars too. I really like it. And again, if you're looking for just a cutesy little romance, this is a good one for you. The 11th book that I read this year, I believe, is Nothing More to Tell by Karen McManus. She is one of my favorite mystery thriller authors. I have read most of her books. Bryn is currently a senior in high school, but it flashes back to her 8th grade year a lot because in her 8th grade year, her favorite teacher was found murdered. Now they thought that they caught the murderer. Obviously it's a mystery thriller, so that's like being debunked or whatever. This book is good. I like Karen McManus because she's more of a YA mystery thriller, so there's not a ton of gore. It's not super scary, but it's still really like thrilling and holds you on the edge of your seat, which I really like. This book focuses on like old friendships, new friendships, who can I trust. Her books always have some really good twists in them. I think that she's a great storyteller. Again, I would give this book probably a 4 out of 5 stars. So like the next 8 books-ish that I read were on the Kindle app. I got it in like October maybe. I got it this past semester and started reading like crazy. So the first book that I read on it was Culty. This book is by Mariana Zapata. I love her writing. Okay, this was the second book that I had read from her, but now I have read like 4 or 5 and I love them. My favorite book ever that I have ever read is by her. It is called The Wall of Winnipeg and Me. Most of her books, I would say, are like Grumpy X Sunshine. A lot of them focus on like sports and athletes and things like that, which personally I really like. I love a good sports romance, and they are all slow burn. And when I tell you slow burn, I mean like so slow burn that their first kiss isn't even until like the 500th or 600th page. The main character in this book is named Sal Casillas. She is a soccer player playing for a professional team in Texas. A super popular German, like king of soccer type player who has retired has become her coach. They don't hit it off in the beginning. Obviously, it's a romance, so we know what happens. But also, it's a coach and player situation, so they kind of don't really know what they are because he's kind of mean to everybody, but then sometimes he'll be nice to only her, and so they kind of just create this friendship. And then I'm not going to explain the rest of the book, but it's a really good book if you like slow burn. Honestly, I feel like I'm going to give most books a 4, but like I said, I'm here for the vibes. If I like the book, I like the book, so I'm going to give that one a 4. Now the next book that I read was also from Mariana Zapata. It is called Wait For It. This is my second favorite book from her for sure. It is a book about a woman named Diana. I believe that she's in like mid-20s. I think that she's like 25, 26 in the book. Before the book begins, we learn that Diana's brother and his wife both pass, and so she is left to care for their children. Now she still does have like family in her life, which is nice because you get to see like the grandparents in the book and everything too. But she is able to save up some money. She is a hairdresser. She moves houses. So basically she is taking care of these 2 little boys, Josh and Louie. Josh is, I believe, 11 or 12 in the books, and Louie is like 5. Now I like kids, so I thought it was really cool that this book kind of focused heavily on her relationship with the kids as well as her like romantic relationship, and also the kid in this book was the athlete instead of like the main character being the athlete. The male main character in this book is named Dallas. I love Dallas. I love his character. Again, it's kind of like a Grumpy X Sunshine trope. I love how much it focused on the kids and her having to be like a mature adult and relying on that responsibility. And obviously Dallas was so good with the kids as well. He was actually a coach for Josh's travel baseball team. But also, I said earlier, I love when books cross over a little bit, and Diana, not only, I didn't read them in this order on purpose, I just like figured this out throughout the book. Diana is Sal's cousin from Culty, which is the book that I read right before this one, and then she was talking to her best friend and I was like, wait, I know that name. Her best friend is the main character in The Wall of Winnipeg and Me. So obviously that was very exciting for me. That just added so much more to the book. So we got to see all of those characters a little bit throughout the book, and I just thought that was really cool. I know that most people would probably not do this, but I'm gonna give it a 5 stars. The next book that I read, also on Kindle, I'll put a picture of it right here, is Marriage for One by Ella Mays. The main trope in this book is marriage of convenience and like fake marriage and whatnot. The 2 main characters are Jack and Rose. This is a dual perspective book, which it might have been the first dual perspective book I read. ACOTAR has a little bit of it, but this is really the first one I think that I read this year. Personally, I love it. I wasn't sure if I was gonna love it at first, but I really love dual perspective books now. Also, Grumpy X Sunshine, she opened up a coffee shop. She is very sunshine and whatnot, and he is very like, not angry or mean, but just like, let's get down to business. I do what I need to do. The book was really cute. It was a really good book. I'd probably give it like a 4 stars again. I love how protective he is over her. I love, honestly, his character I really do like, and I really like hers as well. Again, the next book I read on the Kindle app, and it was from Lukov with Love. It is also by Mariana Zapata. I think out of the 3 books that I've read this year from her, I think that the order would go Wait For It, From Lukov with Love, Culty. They were all really good. This one I think is in the middle. Again, it's an enemies to lovers. It's a slow burn. They also have known each other since like their childhood. But yeah, there's like a ton of tension, a lot of like angst in this book. I guess I haven't even said what the book's about. This is like a figure skating book. She is a figure skater who is struggling with her career a little bit. She was a partner skater and then her partner kind of dropped her. They were like dating, broke up, dropped her, whatever. Ivan Lukov is like the world's best figure skater, and he owns this complex now that she trains at, and like I said, they've known each other since childhood. So he's like, let's just go into this 1-year agreement and we're gonna be partners. So it's about them learning to trust each other, not only in like real life but also like the rink. And again, it's about athletes, which I really like. The next 3 books that I read were in a series by Lucy Score. It was the Things We Never Got Over series. I started this first book not exactly knowing what to expect. I had never read a Lucy Score book before. I fell in love. This is called the Knock 'Em Out series because the town that this is based in is Knock 'Em Out. The 3 male main characters in all 3 of the books are, 2 of them are brothers and then one's a best friend. And then the 3 women, 2 of them like come into the town and are new to the town, and then the other one has lived there her whole life. So again, there's a ton of different tropes in this. I think some people say they're standalone. I would not call them standalone. You definitely need to read this series in order because the first book is about Knox and Naomi, and Naomi's sister is involved with a lot of crime and just like leaves her child, this 11-year-old child, to Naomi, and she's like, take care of her. The first one is definitely Grumpy X Sunshine. Like I said, there's a ton of tropes. If you really want to know all of them, look into it. The series overall gets a 5 out of 5 stars for me. It is amazing. I think personally I like the first book the best just because I like the 2 main characters the best. But throughout these books, obviously the other characters are heavily present in the second and third book. So you really need to know. If you don't read them in order, you're going to be really confused, but not only because the characters are so heavily present, but because there is also crime that happens in the book, and it really progresses through all 3 stories. So if you don't read them in order, you're going to be really confused. So definitely read them in order, but they are amazing books. The romance is really good, the plot's really good, the characters and character development is, they're really good. The 20th book that I read this year is The House Across the Lake by Riley Sager. I'm not exactly sure how to say it. He's definitely a great storyteller because there were twists in this book that I did not see coming. Like, it was just out of left field, but it made so much sense. For some reason, I can't really explain it to you. This one is just one point of view. The main character is a woman named Casey, whose husband passed away on this lake a year ago. So Casey is an actress. She became pretty addicted to alcohol after her husband died, and her mom is a very popular actress as well. And so her mom sends her to this lake house to basically get away from the public eye because she has made a fool of herself. She has ruined her job, her career, she thinks. And so she goes to this lake. And across the lake is a really nice house that basically is made out of like you can like kind of tell, but the whole front of the house is glass. And the neighbors that live there are very rich, very popular. One used to be like a huge model, and her husband owns this big app. So everybody kind of knows who they are. Their names are Tom and Catherine Royce. And so while she is drinking one night, she picks up binoculars that used to be her husband and starts watching this couple. And she notices that things just seem off. She's afraid that there's things going on that shouldn't be going on. And the first day that she got to the lake, she actually saved Catherine from drowning. So that was like weird in itself because Catherine was like, I'm a really good swimmer. I don't know what happened. It just felt like my body stopped working. Like, she just thinks that there are things going on in this marriage that should not be going on. There are a few other people who live across the lake. This is her family's lake house. So one of the other characters she's known since she was a child, and he's basically like an uncle to her. This was an interesting book. The writing style was a lot different than I was used to. Don't get me wrong, really good book, but like maybe like 3/4 of the way through, this book takes a turn, okay? It takes a turn that I was not expecting at all. And I'm not even kidding. I was reading it and I just went, what? So if you want like a thriller that is gonna leave you on your seat, because I'd be like, oh, this one thing's happening. No, this is who it is. This is what's wrong. Definitely did not guess what actually happened. So if you want a book that keeps you on your toes, this is definitely the one. The last 2 books that I read this year are Christmas books. The first one is The Christmas Fix by Lucy Score. I decided to read this book because I loved the Knock 'Em Out series so much and I wanted something a little Christmassy. This book takes place in a small town in Connecticut that just got absolutely decimated by a hurricane. And the city manager, Noah Yates, is trying to like pick this town back up. And then Catalina King comes into the story. She is a reality TV show star that has a TV show focusing on fixing up houses and things like that. She actually has a friend who lives here that she had fixed up the house for on another season of the show, gets a call from them, wants to come to this town and help, but obviously Noah is like, no, you're gonna bring you're gonna bring a bunch of drama here. You reality TV people are all the same. I don't like you. I don't want anything to do with you here. And then she comes anyways, basically. He finally agrees to let this TV show film here as long as they do what they promised, which is get Mary put back together before their big Christmas festival, because that is how basically Mary makes all of its money for the year. He was kind of rude though. If you want like an enemies to lovers where they genuinely hate each other at the beginning of the book and not like, oh, I act like I hate her because I've loved her for so long, that is not this book. They genuinely do not like each other at the beginning of this book. So character development in this was good. He has a daughter who I love. I just think that the daughter in the story was so cute. She's like 12, I believe. But yeah, this is definitely a strong enemies to lovers book. I would give it a 4 stars, I think. And then the last book that I read in 2023 was Love Light Farms by B.K. Borison. The main character in this book is named Stella, and she bought this Christmas tree farm that was struggling and just needs some help. She put in an application to a competition that a famous travel influencer was doing, and the prize is $100,000 and a feature on this lady's page. So basically this lady's gonna come visit, and Stella thinks it is a great way to get some more traction, get some more tourists to this little town, to her Christmas tree farm. But she lies on her application and says that she has a boyfriend, which she does not. She has to ask her best friend Luca to be her fake boyfriend for the week. Now, they met 10 years ago. They're in their 30s now. They met in their early 20s. They are like absolute best friends, but both of them are secretly in love with each other. This is not a dual point of view. It is all from Stella's point of view, except for one very last chapter at the end. It's kind of like an epilogue chapter, and that is in his point of view. I just love the main characters in this book. I think that they are both really good people. It's not an enemies to lovers, so they both really love each other so much, even not romantically. I think that the chemistry in this book was obviously like there immediately since they had been best friends for so long. I just love this book. I thought that this was a really, really cute book to end the year with. I would definitely recommend this. So that is all that I have for you guys today. Be sure to comment down below what your favorite book was that you read this year and any book recommendations that you think I would like. I got quite a few books for Christmas, so I have kind of a big TBR anyways, but I am always looking for new books. Thank you so much for watching this video. I hope that you enjoyed it, and I'll see you in my next one. Bye!